Nick, I'm back. You ready?
Let's dive in.
All right. So we took a look at the admin tab and how we create the email footer under the center setting, and then also how we can play around with system email templates and email templates. Let's look at some of the rest of the customization functionality under admin. So from left to right, we already looked at centers. Let's look at session setup. Under session setup, subjects, those are pretty straightforward. What kind of subjects that we might like to associate with the sessions that are taking place. We can also look at attendance. Now, we need to get rid of some of these. Well, I'm going to go ahead and edit this one. I have no idea who wrote that. Let's call that absent instead. All right, so and this one's a crazy one here. 9.
Well,
this is what happens, Nick, when you allow people to play in your sandbox. Yeah. So let's pretend like a lot of these names aren't here. And what you should know is that you need to set up your attendance. And the basic attendance is like attended, or which could be called present, attended, anything you want to call that. Absent, late cancellation. These are the basic ones. No show that you want. Now, when you create your attendance, most likely your setup specialist is going to help you out with this process. But if you're doing it on your own, you just create the name and you need to just check whether it's attended. If it's not checked that it's attended or late cancellation, it's an absent. If these are both unchecked, well, it's not attended. It's not late cancellation. It must be
absent.
It must be absent, right? So we do this and so that we can bill appropriately. So we have when we create our session types, you have an attended rate we bill, we have a late cancellation rate, and we have an absent rate that we bill. Okay, so these are just the 3 choices: attended, late cancellation, and if neither of them are checked,
it's absent.
That's right. We also can choose a sort order how we want to choose them to show up. All right, let's cancel that out. Now, so we're going to pretend like this is much more cleaner than it is. They'll likely probably only have 3 different attendance categories. Got it?
Yep.
Okay. Next thing we're going to look at is session types. Got a lot of crazy different session types in here as well, and a lot of companies end up having quite a few as well, compared to 20 to 30, right? One of the things we talked about in an early video is how we can associate a session type to a student to make sure that the instructor does not choose the wrong session type and screw up the billing. Do you remember that?
I do.
Okay.
So how do we do that?
How do we do that? How do we create the session types?
Exactly.
Yeah. So we add session type here. And we need to give the session type a name. Now the client note template, this is just a template that we can use to populate the client note, and it's used by some companies that have some standard information that they need to report about a particular type of session. So let's say it's a reading program and we're trying to report on several measures that are specific to this reading program. We can kind of create that template for that session note. Now underneath that, we have the sort order that you can choose a number where it's going to show up in your sort order. And this is a required field. It's the rate. What are we charging for this? So we have to have a charge for that. And then we have use QuickBooks Web Connect. So if they're set up for Web Connect, which they should be because it makes connecting and syncing to QuickBooks much easier. Don't you agree?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So we also have attended QuickBooks class. Now, a lot of companies don't use QuickBooks classes. If you know what a QuickBooks class is, you might want to use it. If you don't know what a QuickBooks class is, you can talk to your accountant to find out if it's something that would be helpful. Ultimately, it's about segmenting different services in QuickBooks for your profit and loss statement. So if you don't know what it is, likely you don't need it. Use location QuickBooks class, the custom feature for some of our companies that have many multiple centers and need to segment things by location. Once again, if you don't know what it is, you probably don't need it. Okay, so attended QuickBooks account. Now this is the QuickBooks item name that this session that it needs to be associated with. I'm sorry, this is the account, like the income account. It might be tutoring or it might be test prep. So in QuickBooks, in accounting practice, your session type has an income account for your profit and loss statement. So you might have this income classified as tutoring or educational services, something like that. Nick, have I lost you?
I'm not gonna say yes, but
You don't like?
yes.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, so you're not that savvy on QuickBooks right now, right?
I've never used it before.
Yeah. So a lot of our customers aren't that savvy on QuickBooks either. So these are some things that they might need to talk about their accountant with. And if they really need to get some help, we can do some consulting work with them to help with this. Ultimately, it's about setting up LearnSpeed so it plays nicely with QuickBooks, and we've got the right kind of income accounts associated with the session logs in LearnSpeed, and we have the item names associated appropriately as well. So really important to get these right if we want them to sync up correctly. All right, use cancel. This is if you have a late cancellation, you want to have a late cancellation rate, and again, you need to have an account and a different item name for this because it has a different billable rate, and then the same thing with absent. Now, many companies don't use the absent at all, oftentimes don't even use late cancel. Many companies charge the full amount for the session when it's an absent. If that's the case, don't use an absent because it doesn't have a different rate. An absent will be the same as the present for the billable. So that means that when you create in the attendance, if you charge the same amount for an absent as you did for attended, guess what? When it says absent or no-show or whatever that was, you check that it was really attended. Now, this is not saying that they actually attended. What is it saying? It's saying that you're billing them the attended rate. Got it?
Yeah, I see how that works.
Okay. Now, if it's really an absent because you're going to charge them a different rate,
then you have both of them deselected.
Yeah. Both of them deselected. That's right. Okay. I think you're catching on. All right. So that's subject. We were looking at session types. I think that we pretty much covered the session types. Really important to get this right. I think that the message is feel free to contact us and make sure if they have any questions that they get them answered before they move forward. That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, one step at a time.
Yeah. All right, so also under the session setups, we have our ratings, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it's up to 4 ratings that they can capture. Now, these are just the ratings themselves, high, medium, and low. Rating here, high, medium, prepared, unprepared. These are the different things that we used in the session log when we were logging the sessions, like engagement, preparation, and progress by default. These are the actual ratings. Now, where do we configure the actual labels? Under configuration. Configuration, labels, actually it's under custom text, I lied. This is where we give the label for the session rating 1, engagement, session rating 2, preparation, session rating 3, progress. Okay, so this is where we can define those things. All right, so again, this is stuff that we usually help them up with setting up, right?
Yeah, we do, but at least it's always good to know.
It's good to know that it's there. Okay, so back to setup. So we've covered all of these. Now we're going to look at the rest of the configuration. User tags. Now this is where you can create user tags, but the truth is, as an admin, you can create user tags on the fly, unlike when you're underneath the student or the instructor's account and you need a new tag, you can just create it right there. But if you want to, you can just go ahead and add a new user tag right here, like new user tag. New user tag is added. Now we can look at that up. New user tag. Oh, I added that twice. Let's search instead. New user tag. Let's see. Should be 2. There's a 1 with caps. I'm going to delete that one. Okay, so this is how we can manage those user tags. And remember, user tags are used to define what subjects the instructors are qualified to teach. We can also use it to tag the customers for things that they're interested in for marketing purposes. Products. You have the ability to charge people for products. And so we can have a book for sale, QuickBooks item code, a description, and put a price on it so that we can charge the client for a particular thing. there's a register underneath the client's Avery Parents account, which allows you to charge them for non-session based items. So this is how we can set those items up. Task topics, pretty straightforward there. This is how we can define what topics for the tasks. But remember, as an administrator, you can create these on the fly as well. When that little manage thing shows up underneath, anytime a manage thing shows up, you can create new topics on the fly. Timesheet types. So timesheet types, this is where we can define the timesheets that instructors can get paid. We're going to talk about this in another video because there's some special things about timesheet types, but this is where we can add new ones. We already talked about system emails, email templates. Grades, pretty straightforward. These are the grades that we teach. And also we want to have graduation offset set appropriately. Graduation offset just says if they're a senior, that means that their graduation date year is this year. There's no offset. An offset of 1 makes them a junior. So this allows us to update the names of what grade they're in as they commence towards graduation. You got that? Perfect. Referred by, this is just your list of referrals. You can add new referrals. And we talk about labels. We touched on labels. Labels is just what you call things. So if you want to call what we call a client a parent, change it to parent. Make sure to change the plural as well, parents. If you want to call instructors therapists, you can change it to therapist and therapists.
Therapy?
Therapy?
I don't know what it is.
I don't know what
Okay.
it is, yeah.
Okay.
Counselors. Counselors,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
All right.
Therapy, I like that, Nick.
Therapy, yeah.
All right. Okay, sessions, I have no idea what that. Session save, do we want to call it a save? Some people like to call it a post instead of a save, right? So that's actually just a little custom code. The same thing with students. Okay, so there's just some things you can do there. Now, custom text, we already talked about that. This is where we create the labels. That'll be up by default, engagement, preparation, progress. But this is also what we use for our work orders. Concern, history, objective, scheduling. This is where we can customize those things. All right, and application status. This is something that we use to process our potential prospective new employees. We're not going to cover this, but main message is if a company has a need for processing potential hires, they should probably talk to us about that so that we can help them get that set up because it's a feature that we'd have to turn on for them. All right, that's kind of it for the customization and under the admin. That wasn't too painful, was it?
I liked it. Well,
nice, fantastic. So we're going to come back though, and we're going to talk about timesheet type setup in the next video.